we've already reached the 8th lesson of the Straight A Guide. And just to give you a simple recap, as I like to do, because it's so important that this becomes internal to you, so that you are unconsciously conscious about how every decision you make puts you on the pathway for an opportunity. If you're at a crisis, you've always got to be thinking about how you want to get through it. And that's why lesson 1 is about defining success. Lesson 2, we talked about setting goals that align with how you define success. Lesson 3 is about having the right attitude, right? Everything starts with attitude. If you don't have the right attitude, nothing happens. 4, you've got to aspire to what you want to become. And I've been sharing with you how from the very start of my prison journey, I aspired to want to work toward prison reforms so that we incarcerate fewer people, and those who we do incarcerate are incentivized to pursue excellence and hopefully earn a higher level of liberty based on merit. 5, in order to do that, everybody's got to take action. So you've got to be, always working towards achieving a new opportunity, a new goal, and those goals will put you on the pathway for the next opportunity. 6, you've got to hold yourself accountable, right? As days are turned into weeks, weeks into months, months into years, and for some years into decades, you've got to be, always marching in the right direction. And that means you create an accountability tool to measure your progress. In business, they'll say, if you can't measure progress, the progress didn't exist. 7, you've got to keep your head in the game all the time. That's the modules about awareness, which we just spoke about. And when you're aware of opportunities that you could either create or you can seize, the world becomes aware of you as well. And hopefully they will become a part of your coalition. That's a strategy that worked for me. But I can assure you, if you're not for real, if you're not authentic, none of this will matter because the world will see, right? When I go into prisons all across the country, when I go into prisons and speak, sometimes I'm in a high security penitentiary, and I like to tell the people, now, if I came in here and wanted to announce that I'm going to be a shot caller of this penitentiary, how long would it take you to figure out that that's not authentic, that I'm not real? And everybody would snicker and laugh and they'd say, it'd take us about 5 seconds. And I would tell you, well, there's a flip side to that as well. If you come back to society and you're not ready, it takes about 2 seconds for the reality to set in that you won't be able to get a job, that you'll have struggles that will complicate your life further. In the earlier lesson, I talked about the 5 outcomes that await most people who go through the criminal justice system, and you're not going to like them. One of them is unemployment. Okay, it's tough to get a job when you've got a criminal background. I don't care how successful you were in the past. If you haven't built something to overcome the criminal conviction, it's very tough to get into the job market. 2, you might be underemployed, meaning you might get a job, but it's a dead-end job. And it leaves you like one paycheck away from poverty, which makes you vulnerable to making bad decisions that can bring you back into prison. 3, in all reality, homelessness is an outcome for many people who come out of prison. And nobody thinks they're going to be homeless ever, just like nobody starts off their life thinking I'm going to prison. But that's an outcome if you don't prepare. 4, another outcome for a lot of people, particularly if you're not authentic about preparing for success after release, is more problems with the law, where you're getting arrested. You're doing life on the installment plan, going to prison for 3 or 4 years, getting out, going back to prison, getting out, just a parade of horribles that follow. And the 5th outcome is success. But success is only going to follow for the individuals who really invest of themselves and think about how they are going to overcome. And there are many ways to do that. But I can't tell you what that is, nor can a case manager in prison, nor can a teacher in prison, nor can a warden or a probation officer or a judge. You have to start by defining success and figure out what is important to you. What is it that you want to do? And then once you know, well, that's when you start, architecting a plan. That's what makes you the CEO of your life, right? A CEO recognizes a problem and then he creates a plan on how he's going to get a better solution. Okay? That's what you have to be doing, just like I have to do every single day. Every day I contemplate, well, what are the complications that I am going to face in trying to persuade, a very cynical body that we need reforms so that we could bring back parole, U.S. parole, or so that we could bring back a work release program for people in federal prison, or that we could create incentives that will allow you to work toward earning a higher level of liberty at the soonest possible time. All of this is methodical, deliberate, and it requires you to be authentic. So what does that mean? You define success, you come up with a plan, you develop priorities, you know what you've got to do first, then you build tools, tactics, and resources, and then you execute your plan. So you will see I've spoken a lot about the importance of profiles on the website at Prison Professors, and I really encourage you, develop your profile. It will be in your best interest, and it's free, and it will be in my best interest. Because I am working for reforms that will allow you to work toward a furlough, or work toward work release programs, or work toward a higher level of liberty, maybe moving from a high security penitentiary to a medium, to a low, to a camp, or maybe even closing all minimum security camps so that more people are serving their sentences in a community confinement-based setting, such as home confinement. Now, all of that takes a tremendous amount of work. So my authenticity of doing that is building the profiles platform so that people in prison can memorialize and document all the ways, all the steps that they are taking to earn freedom, right? You've got to be in the pursuit of excellence at all times. But if you don't define excellence, well, it's hard to get there, okay? I mean, it's like in Alice in Wonderland, they talk about the Cheshire Cat who would argue that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. But if you're authentic, you're building a story that you could turn back to and say, I made these decisions back there so that I could create this opportunity, which I later leveraged to open this opportunity, right? When we started the Profiles platform, we started with zero. We didn't have one person on there. I think I was the first one to build a profile on there. But we had to take a series of incremental steps, building and breaking and building and breaking, because we had to grow to scale. Because if I didn't get scale, there's no way I could get the Bureau of Prisons to look at these leaderboards as a resource. And I'm still working on that, right? For me, success is a pursuit. It is a pursuit of excellence. As of today, and I'm filming this in early January 2026, we have roughly 5,200 people who've built profiles on the website. But I got to get to 10,000 people. Because if I get to 10,000 people, I can demonstrate daily active users, people who are avoiding drugs, avoiding alcoholism, avoiding problems in prison, and focusing on building their own pathways to success. Right? I like to say, last night I went to a restaurant. There were maybe 100 people in the restaurant. I didn't know one of them, and I didn't care. I didn't care that I didn't know any of those people. Right? That's so different from the lifestyle in prison, where people are wondering, what does your paperwork say? Where are you from? Who do you run with? None of that leads to success. What leads to success is somebody who is living as the CEO of his life, who is articulating a plan, who is understanding what priorities do I have to take first. I had to first get an undergraduate degree before I could become a candidate for a master's degree. And I had to get a master's degree before I would be a better candidate to persuade publishers to bring my books to market. I had to bring books to market before I would get authority figures to listen to anything I had to say about this concept of incentivizing a pursuit of excellence. Now, in the next lesson, I'm going to talk about this concept of celebrating incremental achievements. And in that module, I will be telling you about how it's a level of authenticity that leads to incremental achievements that helps you get the result that you're after. So success is never overnight. It is an ongoing pathway of pursuing excellence every day, staying on track. The Straight A Guide is just a framework to help you be very deliberate about understanding the opportunity costs that come with every decision that you make. And if you document it on your profile at prisonprofessors.org, you are going to be a better candidate of persuading people that you're self-motivated, you've got intrinsic discipline, and you're always focused on the result. That is what makes you a better candidate for a higher level of liberty at the soonest possible time. I'm Michael Santos, founder of Prison Professors. I served 26 years in prison, and I believe in you.